You're listening to Miss Style, Strength, and Grace with Deidra Murphy. This is your one-stop shop for style, fashion, health, and fitness. Deidra's passion is to help empower women to reach their fullest potential, both inside and out. Deidra and her guests will be discussing how to develop your style, health, and lifestyle hacks to energize your day and inspire you to keep reaching higher levels of success. Deidra is a professional fashion stylist, health guru, and Mrs. Washington 2017. It's time to get open and honest with Deidra.
All right. Well, hello and welcome everyone to Miss Style, Strength, and Grace. I am super excited to have a special guest on with me today. Her name is Mekayla Eppers, and she and I actually competed together this summer at Mrs. America. So currently, Mekayla resides in Elkhart, Indiana, with her husband, Chris, whom I happen to like that name because my husband's name is also Chris, and her new puppy, Harry. She works as a lifestyle and fitness coach and real estate broker, while also raising funds for the Feather Project to provide scholarships for children in foster care. Mekayla Eppers, who was also formerly Diehl, was also Miss Indiana USA 2014. She went on to compete for Miss USA 2014, where she placed in the top 20, and she's currently our Mrs. America 2018. Make sure to follow Mekayla's adventures on her Instagram at Mrs. America 18. Well, hello and welcome, Mekayla.
Thank you for having me on this cold night. I don't know about you, but it's freezing here. I'm happy to be inside talking to you.
Oh, perfect. It's not quite as terrible weather here. It's just been chilly. I think today the high was like 30 degrees. So I know that's cold for me. I don't know about you guys.
That would be a warm up at that point for us. That would be a heat wave.
Oh, it's a heat wave. Well, then I don't feel quite as bad. I think last week, it was a week right after Christmas, our highs were hitting like 22 to 24 degrees. And I was like, I'm just chilled to the bone.
18 was the highest it's been in a long time. So we're really happy about that.
Oh, girl, we got to get you somewhere else outside of Indiana. Get away from all that snow. I'm sure that South Africa was a welcome reprieve for you then.
It was a shocker getting off the plane and having this much snow, but I was glad to be able to soak up the sun a little bit.
I'm sure. Well, that actually leads me in to my first question. So for my listeners that wasn't aware of my reference to South Africa, Mekayla just got back not even a month ago from competing at Mrs. World, and it was hosted by South Africa. So I would love to hear about your experience there, and not only that, you made top 6, so congratulations, and I just share with my listeners like how it was.
It was an amazing experience, and I was one of those people that never really had. I mean, I want to travel the world. If given the opportunity between, things or experiences, I'm one of those people that want an experience. But South Africa wasn't really high on my list of places to travel to, and so I'm really happy I was able to have the opportunity to do that. I had no expectations. I just had some friends that had traveled there and saw their safari pictures, and I was really excited to hopefully go on a safari, which we got to do a lot of that. But my experience overall was pleasant. A lot of smiles. Of course, the sunshine helps that. But all of the women from all the different countries were phenomenal. And it's kind of funny because America technically we had 6 people from America. A lot of people whose families were immigrants or they were born in different countries. They went and represented other countries. So it was really nice to have other English-speaking people that I had either met or had known or competed with, and that kind of made it a lot more fun because I already had some friends to go to. And as far as the competition, I loved every minute of it. I soaked it all in. I'm someone who really likes to bring in my surroundings. I try to take every moment in and really remember it, be in the moment, if you will. And I'm glad I did so. And I didn't make the top 6. I was top 12. But I'm very proud of it. I was going to win, as I think most of the girls were. But I know that the winner they picked a great girl. And the judges had a hard job, but honestly, they didn't have that hard of a job because there couldn't have been a wrong winner. There were that many amazing women there. So any one of us would have been a great Mrs. World. So I'm really happy for Alice.
That's awesome. And, for my listeners that aren't aware of that pageant system, Alice actually competed with both of us this summer at Mrs. America. She was formerly Mrs. New York, and then she got to go and represent her home country of Hong Kong and ended up taking away the title. So I was obviously pulling for any one of you ladies. There was like you said, 6 women there that were all from the States, and one of them was a former Mrs. Washington, and she went and represented her birth country of Jamaica. So, no matter what, I was like, I just hope everybody wins. And, I was like, maybe all 6 ladies will make the top 6 from the United States. So anyway, I did want to ask, it's always hard to go to a pageant and not walk away with the result that you want. I can attest to that one. I wanted to ask, what was your biggest lesson or takeaway that you have from competing at an international pageant?
So, Deidra, I've been doing this for a long time, and I want to completely put the nix on the stereotype that you have to have a lot of pageant experience in order to be successful in Mrs. America. I truly believe that's not true. There are plenty of Mrs. Americas that have not had experience in other systems. I specifically got into pageantry because I needed to raise money for my scholarship, and my mom is a runway model. I grew up on stage and on camera, and when my life kind of took a shift and I was put into foster care, I really had to find a different route. School and standardized testing are not my strengths. Academically, I had to work very hard to get a 3.3 GPA for high school. I had to work very hard for that, so academic scholarships were not really there for me. And I loved the community service aspect of competing in pageantry. So I started when I was 12. So from 12 all the way to 29 there is a lot I've learned simply because of pageantry. And the one thing, anytime I have advice from people, or people ask for my advice, I'm getting ready to compete in my first pageant or my third pageant, or I've competed for 6 years and haven't won a thing, my advice right here and there will always be, this is a sport on opinion. 110%. There's no questions. There's no way to manipulate it. It is all based off of 5 people's opinions of you in that moment and that day. And it doesn't mean if you don't make top 6, like I didn't make top 6, or if you don't make top 12, or you're not the winner, it doesn't mean they don't think you are a good person for the job. They just thought there were others that were more qualified for the job of being Mrs. America or Mrs. Washington or Miss America for that matter. And if you cannot handle the fact, you're not ready to compete. And that's harsh for me to say, but that's the fact of the matter. If you know you're ready for an international pageant or a national pageant or even a state pageant, is if you are prepared to lose.
I love that. It's kind of like if you can't live without it, then you're not, you can't live with it. Or how does that saying go? You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Something along those lines. Like if you can't live without that thing, then.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's a sport, and at the end of the day, it is a competition. And the weird thing, unlike, I played volleyball my whole life, and in college, it's not one of those things where the ball hits the line, it's in. There's not a cookie cutter point system. It's all based off of opinion. And if you are not confident in yourself enough to be, if you're not confident in what you have to present, you're probably not ready to win the pageant anyways. So going to Mrs. World and even Mrs. America, I've had many conversations with people who are close to me, and how do you feel? How do you feel? I mean, when I went to Miss USA, a lot changed in my life. And I was not in a good place mentally, physically, especially physically, or emotionally. And it really broke me down as a human being. It took me about 2 years after Miss USA to bounce back, just because I was not ready for the job, and I really wasn't ready to fail for the job, fail getting the job. So when I went to Miss America, I did everything the best I could. And the same thing, going to Mrs. World. I knew that I had done everything the best of my ability. Given some circumstances I was in, financially where I was, physically, mentally, I knew I was at the best point in my life that I could be. And if I walked away empty-handed at Mrs. America, I was fine, because I truly felt like me for the first time in a long time. I truly felt like I was representing Mekayla, the real version of Mekayla. And I felt the same way at Mrs. World. So when I didn't make top 6, I have to admit, as I'm standing there and I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I couldn't believe I wasn't, I thought I at least had top 6, but that was that. I just took my last moment. I looked into the audience, and I just like, okay, this is the last time I'm doing this. And it is. And I was okay because I knew I did my best.
I love that.
That was a long answer.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I totally understand, and I feel the same way. I actually did a podcast called What I Won by Losing, and it was about my reflection my second year trying for Mrs. Washington and how I wasn't in the right mental space. I wasn't there for the right reasons, and I put way too much pressure on myself, and I didn't deserve to win that year. And thank goodness I didn't. And actually it was the year that Natalie Lutmer ended up winning Mrs. Washington, who became our Mrs. America. So, everything happens for a reason. And I think that's totally true. Like, I went into Mrs. Washington this year I wanted to win. Obviously, you don't do a pageant unless you do want to win. But if I wouldn't have walked away winning, I would have been okay. And I knew that I was there to just make more friendships and spread my platform and be there to be a light to other people. And that's when
you grow. You grow from every experience. And no matter how many times you do a pageant, 4 times, 8 times, I don't remember what the record is, but you learn something about yourself. And more importantly, you learn about more of the women around you. And then if they come back, you have more friends and sisterhood. And when you get consumed in this life, it's hard. I don't know about Washington, but Indiana is not exactly a pageant state, if you will.
Not either here.
So it's fun to meet people who are, moms and businesswomen and like to juggle, but also love this amazing sport of pageantry, whereas all my friends here don't understand it. And so you build a sisterhood of people who can relate to you, and you can build a different bond than you would anybody at home.
I love that. So this is actually not one of the questions that I had originally lined out, but you brought it up. How do you kind of stay, I guess, real, especially in an area like Indiana where there's not a ton of like pageantry, and people might think like, oh, she's just that Mekayla pageant girl. Like, how do you stay real with people?
Well, I'm sorry I keep bringing it up, but after Miss USA, there was a weird media thing that happened with my size.
That was one of my questions. So yeah, we can go there for sure.
Sure, we'll go there. I had what everybody calls their 15 minutes of fame. And, I was interviewed. Good Morning America flew me out to New York. I was I was in USA Today, Shape Magazine, People Magazine, CNN, Fox and Friends. I did a whole tour, a media tour, bigger than Nia, who was a friend of mine, who won Miss USA. And, Deidra, I became someone that I never want to meet again. And there might be a couple people friends of mine, who will say, for a slight moment, I thought I was better than everybody else. I was soaking it up. I was in the spotlight. It was my time. And I realized in that moment that I really didn't like that person. I didn't like my thoughts. I didn't like my actions. I didn't like how I was viewing the world around me. And I realized it wasn't me. And I vowed in that moment that I would never be that person again, no matter what happens to me or who I am or who I marry or what title I have or what my last name is. I am not better than anybody to the left or the right of me. That is only God's decision to make that judgment if I'm worthy for to go there one day. And so how I stay real is because I've met the fake version. I've met the fake Mekayla, and I don't ever want to meet her again. And I'm very, if you don't follow me on Instagram or Facebook, I am as real as they get. I'm raw. I guess that's the better word. I'm very raw. I tell you my struggles. I'm not afraid to post pictures or live videos of me, and I haven't not showered in days, or still have makeup on, don't have makeup on, because if you are in the spotlight, I don't care what your title is or what your fame is or how big or little. If you're in the spotlight, if it's just one person is looking up to you, and I want them, I want a girl to go to my Facebook page or my Instagram, and I don't want her to look at my pictures and say, wow, I want to be her. I'm going to stop eating, or I need more makeup. I don't want that. I don't want to set that example for anybody else. So I am trying to be the example that I would hope my future children would look up to. And the only way I know how to do that is to be me and unapologetically me. Is that a word?
Unapologetic. Oh yeah. And I've heard that a lot actually lately. Like, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and they talk about being authentic, and actually old business coach that I used to work with, she wrote a book, and I forget the main title of it, but the subtitle was "Be Unapologetically Who You Are." And that was her whole premise. So definitely a word.
Because I've been wrong before.
Nope, not a word. Hey, it's like that whole moment with like George W. Bush when he's like, strategery.
We'll make it.
People that are older and like remember George W. Bush will know that reference. I sometimes age myself. I'm old. But you know, just to explain to my listeners that might not know why you had this like 15 minutes of fame, it was because you got highlighted for making top 20 and having a quote unquote normal figure at Miss USA, which, I mean, like, tell me a little bit about that.
Oh gosh. Well, I'm going to write a book on it someday. I learned that I lied to myself a lot. I went to Miss USA and gained a lot of weight. My gown didn't fit. Prelims after prelims, they had to sew me up in prelims to wear my gown. I had to wear my backup gown for finals. I mean, I just was, when I say I was not in a mentally or physically good place in my life, I was not. And so when all that happened, it was kind of like a bittersweet moment, because I started a great conversation. What is our national average? Then I got, sorry, a lot of emotions.
Okay. You're okay.
I started a conversation where people obviously didn't mean to, but people were proud that someone that wasn't a size 00 and 6'2" could actually go to Miss USA and make the semifinals. And I was proud to be that for so many people. After that, I had a lot of messages from women who are suffering from eating disorders, thanking me for just stepping out there and being confident in myself, because we need more of it. So it was great. On the other side of it, I started a conversation where people were arguing and using me as the prime example that I am not normal. I am not the average woman. A size 4 and 138 pounds is not average. And then that sparked the conversation of how we have focused on being a certain size rather than a certain level of health. So it was a lot. It was a lot to deal with. And I mean, I could go on for hours about that experience, but.
So like they said that a size 4, like 138 pounds was like above average or like below average?
So people on social media were saying, I'm glad to see someone with an average body. Mm-hmm. Or they were upset because I didn't make the next phase of competition. I didn't make the top 10 at that point. Yeah. So they were upset that, wow, the one girl with a normal body couldn't go very far. They were sad because they couldn't relate to me. And I think really people were able to relate to my body style. I mean, I'm an athlete. I'm not size 00 or 6'2". I don't look like a runway model by any means. So I think that they were just really sad in the fact that I didn't make it further, and they were using the words average and normal. And of course, the media, decided to take that. Well, she's not normal. She's not the right size. And they kind of, they did.
They blew it up out of proportion.
Blew it out of proportion for sure.
Oh yeah. Well, they love to do that because, they want to sell stories. So I did want to kind of switch gears, still talking a little bit about pageantry, because you were a Miss title holder and a state title holder, and then going into the Mrs. pageant. Like, what is the biggest difference in your opinion from a Miss compared to a Mrs. pageant as far as the competition itself?
I am not shy in the fact that I used to make fun of Mrs. pageants. And I've said it before. I had a great friend of mine, and he is a makeup artist. His name is Austin Ride. He actually, I think you guys did. Did you use?
I featured him on an article last year for Pageant Planet.
Okay, yes. Yeah. Austin, I met Austin a long time ago with Ashley Renee's, who's one of my dress sponsors. And she is great in the pageant industry. If you ever need a dress, Ashley Renee's is the place to go. She is so well versed on everything. I had met him a long time ago, and his mom I asked how he got his start, and I don't know if you've talked to him, but his mom is very successful in the Mrs. world, or the Mrs. pageant world, if you will. And I got to ask him a bunch of questions, but I just thought, when I made it to Miss USA, in my mind, I thought that was the biggest and best you could get. Why would I want to do anything different? And it is. The Mrs. world is different than the Miss world. So when Christopher was diagnosed with cancer, we found out we couldn't have kids for a while. our Miss Indiana pageant got a new director, and I'd known some of the girls that were competing, and I thought, you know what, why not try it? Let's just do it. And so I admit that I was against it at first, but I got to see how the level of competition, first of all, but the type of women that were competing, I wanted to be like those women. I want to be a mom like that. I want to be a successful career woman like that. And I thought, okay, if I'm looking up to these girls, then I want to compete. I want to compete. So when I decided to compete, I had no idea what to expect. I'd never seen a pageant. I had never seen a Mrs. America pageant. I had only known the girl that ended up crowning me Mrs. Indiana and got her opinion on it. And after this is all said and done, the Mrs. America organization is it is my favorite pageant I've ever competed in. Mrs. America is.
Why is
the
that?
maturity levels are different. The competition is important, but all the women there are just there to better each other and themselves. Most of the girls women around you, are there to raise each other up. There's not manipulation. There's not any head games. And if there are, there's always going to have that. When you have that many women, there's going to be a level of competition that people, it happens in the workplace, it does. But I just felt that my experience with all the other contestants at Mrs. America far exceeded anything I'd ever done, especially at Miss USA.
Well, and that makes me feel really good too, because I was there with you, so
you were there, girl.
But too, I've never competed at a national pageant before that, so that makes me feel good knowing that that level is different than say Miss USA or Miss America. And I felt the same way too. I did a little Facebook Live review about my experience at Mrs. America, and I talked about how there was no, mean girl behavior. And I was like, maybe it was around me and I just didn't pay attention because I cleared my head of that space. But honestly, I didn't experience any, like you said, manipulation or head games or you can't sit with us type mentality. We always wear pink on Wednesday. So on Wednesday we wear pink. Actually talking about the week of nationals when we competed with each other, and then also at Mrs. World, I follow you on your platforms, and I just loved all your outfits. I remember one of the days at Mrs. America, coming up to you and be like, girl, I want that necklace. I remember it was this floral kind of statement necklace, and you wore it with this cute white romper. So let's talk about your fashion a little bit. You said one of your sponsors is Ashley Renee's. Do you get most of your outfits and wardrobe items sponsored? How does that work?
It's so funny because I have 5 brothers. Fashion is not important to me whatsoever. I am more of a comfort and, practical fashion style. But in pageant world, it's a different girl comes out.
Mm-hmm.
I have an amazing wardrobe that I never wear any of it anywhere unless I'm going to a pageant. I have a whole nother room with dresses and stuff like that. So every day, I'm a fitness coach. So most of the time if you had to tell me, between going shopping at Guess or Lululemon, I'm like, I'm going to take Lululemon any day. But pageant world and how I picked my stuff for Mrs. America and Mrs. World, I simply love to be edgy. I like things that are different. In my opinion, if you're going to make a statement and be memorable, but make a good statement. You want to leave people with a good impression. I try not to be, I like to think I'm sexy, mysterious, but I'm really fun, really quirky, really goofy. So finding wardrobe that fits all of that it's a lot of fun to shop for. One of my favorite places I shop is nastygal.com. I don't know if you've ever read her book.
I've seen it, but I've never read it. I forget what it's called. It's something like Girl Boss or something.
Girl Boss.
Yeah.
Yes. Sophia Ambrosen, I think her name is. The TV show on Netflix is amazing if you ever watch it, but the book is even better. And her website's called nastygal.com, and I buy a lot of my accessories and quirky little things there. They always have random sales. Anything that just sparks an emotion within me, and I know that it's going to be memorable. But it's also comfortable. It's got to be comfortable. So I just have fun with it. I'm a minimalist. I don't like jewelry. I can't believe I put a necklace on today. It's because I went to my grandma's and she bought it for me, so I wore it.
Like, I better wear it in front of grandma.
Yes, I do love it, but I don't wear jewelry. I don't have any earrings in. So I'm someone who likes to save at every moment possible. I'm there for a sale. BCBG is my spirit animal when it comes to.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
But I have to wait for like the sale items are 75% off is what I buy.
I got so lucky this last summer. Actually, it was like a month or two prior going to Vegas for Mrs. America. I was down in Vegas and the actual storefront in the Miracle Mile for BCBG was going out of business. And so they were closing. So like even brand new stuff was on sale for like half off. And I was like, oh my gosh, like girl score right now. So I may have loaded up on a few things and had to end up checking my bag home, but that's okay. So I hear you. I love BCBG. When it comes, I remember you were talking about like this one necklace you wore to our formal like kickoff orientation dinner at Mrs. America, and you had this like statement necklace on, and you were like, "Girls from Charming Charlie's."
Yes.
I was like, "Yes, I love that place."
I love Charming. I think all my necklaces at Mrs. America were from Charming Charlie's, and even like some of them were like $30. I'm like, this is steep for Charming Charlie's, but they were so big.
Well,
so
a lot of times too, they'll have like the earrings and the necklace that come together, so it's kind of like a twofer, you know.
It is. It is.
Yeah. Anytime I take a client like personally shopping on like our accessories, we're going to Charming Charlie's, unless they, maybe have an allergy or something like that. Like I know for my ears, I have to wear either sterling silver or gold in my ears. Oh, darn. So I have to like be careful in the earrings, but for all the other fun stuff, like why not?
I love it.
Awesome. I did notice like your interview outfit, which I actually featured on a Pageant Planet article that dropped today. I don't know if you saw that. You had this great jumpsuit on and with these like awesome balloon sleeves. And that was from Tracy Christ from Oklahoma. Tell me, how did you get that outfit? And like, did you have to go down there and get fitted, or how did that work?
Okay. And maybe it's because I've been doing it for so long. I am not someone who gets attached to clothes. I mean, if someone says you need this dress, you look amazing in it. And if I'm like, okay, I can do this. That's my gown for Mrs. America was not my first choice, my white one. Mm-hmm. But I felt confident enough, and everybody absolutely was dying over it. So fine, that's the one. We'll make it work. Okay.
Obviously, it worked for you.
It worked. Even though Rhode Island had pretty much the same one, it still works. So you never know. I mean, it is. It happens. I think it happens every year at Mrs. America. Mm-hmm. Somebody always shows up with the same style gown. It is what it is. As long as it makes me feel good. So when it came to that red jumpsuit, I actually had no say in it. I mean, I could have said no, but my state director, Julie, messages me and said, I just bought you your interview outfit for Mrs. World. I hope you like it. I said, okay. She sent me a picture of it, and I thought, oh, it's very me because it's very edgy. I love jumpsuits. I always feel like I can conquer any room I step into in a jumpsuit.
It's almost like the new version of a power suit, in my opinion.
It is. It so is. But I think it's more so because it's comfortable for me. I don't have to think about two pieces of clothing because they're attached, which is really nice. And I love the sleeves. I thought the sleeves were memorable. The little tulip sleeves. I absolutely loved them. So, I can't take any credit whatsoever.
Okay. Well, I loved it. And obviously I liked it enough that I wrote about it. So
thank you. And red's one of my favorite colors. So
you looked great in red, and it was like such a striking, powerful color on you. And two, I remember you wore a jumpsuit at Mrs. America. And so I wrote in the article, like, this girl obviously knows what she feels confident in. So I love that.
I do.
Actually, that was kind of my next question was, did you find a gown sponsor for your blue dress that you wore at Mrs. World, or was that something you picked out?
Oh, that was last minute. So for those, I've been in the dress industry my whole life, and I was the manager at Ashley Nays for a few years. So I really love dresses. I know Tony Bowles. I know Sherry Hill. I've modeled for Mac Dougal. I've walked in the Giovanni showroom hundreds of times, and I was really, so finding a gown for me is hard, yet it's easy because I've seen it all, and I know fashion when it comes to pageant gowns very well. I know cuts. I know what works for me. But in the pageant world, if you want a custom gown, you need at least 4 to 6 months. Mm-hmm. And so we did not have that. We did not have time. And so Ashley and I got together and started shopping right away. And I think I tried on every gown, even gowns that weren't national level gowns that we could add like we could buy $300 worth of Swarovskis and put them on there. And we just didn't find anything that was knocking us off our socks. This is an international pageant. You're allowed to break every rule when it comes to dresses, when it comes to Miss Universe, Mrs. World, Miss World. It's just how it is, because all these different fashions from around the world come together. So we found one sherry that we liked. It had been a couple, maybe 2 seasons old, but it wasn't wowing us. And I went to Mrs. Kentucky. I went to watch Mrs. Kentucky, and there was a designer there, and his name is Juan Carlos Panera. And one of his designers, his name is Caesar, approached me, and he had helped one of the girls design a gown, and he was there just representing her. And he gave me his number and says, if you need help for gowns for Mrs. World, let me know. He says, but you have to come to Miami to try on this, I have to come down to a warehouse, we'll look at fabrics. And I was about 2 months out from Mrs. World at this point. So I thought, there's no way. And I am like pinching every dollar I have. I couldn't afford a flight to Miami. Well, he reached out to me out of the blue, and he says, Mekayla, we can get a gown. We can make you a gown, and you'll have it in hands in a week and a half, because they make everything right here in the United States. So I talked to Ashley, who hadn't carried Juan Carlos yet. So she agreed. I mean, she is an amazing sponsor, and she's an amazing friend. And she says, well, how about, Mekayla, we pick this up, because, I've been keeping an eye on him anyways. We're going to pick it up. We'll agree to partner up with Juan Carlos Panera to get you a gown for Mrs. World. So 2 days later, I was on a flight to Orlando, because one of my best friends lives at Disney World, and may or may not have gone to Disney World. But we drove down to Miami, picked out we pieced together fabrics, and he did draping, and I tried on some of his gowns, and I got it 2 days before I left, or a week before I left.
Oh my goodness.
A week before I left.
Talk about cutting it close.
I had a seamstress on standby. She had worked on some of his gowns before, so she kind of knew what to expect as far as construction. But it was made to me specifically, so there weren't really any alterations we had to do. She had to shorten it and reposition that skirt to be a little bit better. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. And that's about it. So it was a lot, and I wasn't stressing over it, because I would have just worn my white one again. I'm like, I'll pack it anyways, just in case. So I wasn't stressing about it, but it was kind of an accident. Yeah.
Well, it was a beautiful accident. Those sometimes are the best ones, right?
I love it. It was my dream gown. I'm absolutely obsessed with it.
Love it. Well, I do want to kind of switch gears here a little bit. So I wanted to talk about your business with your lifestyle and fitness coaching. Is that with a specific company? Did you start your own program? Like, how does that work?
So it sounds really weird. I went to college for psychology. I wanted to be a counselor. And, going through the foster care system, I had a lot of social workers in my life. They were very positive people. And I always said I wanted to be that for other boys and girls. The issue with, at least because I was in Michigan at that time, a lot of the people that were working with me they had never had the experience that I had. They didn't get to go through the things that I went through. And quite honestly, most of them had never had a tragic event in their life. And it really bothered me. People say, we understand what you're going through. And I always thought, but you don't understand. Your life never has taken the path mine has, or even close. And I decided that I wanted to be that for other people. So I went to college, to major in psychology and minor in communications. And I met a professor that I absolutely fell in love with, like figuratively, like I loved his classes. And I switched my major to communications and minored in psychology. So my drive to always help people has been there since I was 8, when I was first put into foster care. So that drive has always been there for me. After Miss USA, health was it was a new platform for me to promote health and not size. And so I always loved working out. I was a 2-time college athlete. So I thought, what, let's work out, let's just share. And that's what I was doing on social media. But then I found someone on Instagram that I loved. Her name is Angie Belmar, and she is a Beachbody coach. And I am not someone who and not dissing by any means, but social, like what they call the pyramid scheme, kind
like
of
the MLM level, multi-level marketing.
I've tried Mary Kay a long time ago. Just wasn't me. I'm not a salesy person, but I really loved Beachbody in general. I love the idea of working out at home, finding this balance, which is my whole life is about finding balance. And I thought I'd give it a try. And if I'm going to commit to something, I jump all in. So I said, you know what, sign me up as a coach so I can get that discount. And I'll see if any of my friends want to do this. And I absolutely have taken off with it. I've transformed it to be more of a life. I'm more of a life coach now. And I help people with fitness because most of the time people are not comfortable in the skin they're in. And it's because of their habits. Mm-hmm. So I've married the two, life coach and health together. And that's what I do with all my clients. We work on physical, but also try to get them mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually balanced. So that's how I came to be where I am.
I love that. And I try to do the same thing. And I kind of marry like style and fitness together is like, it's my story of like being holistic and all that kind of thing. So I love that. It's kind of similar, but in a different realm.
Yeah.
What is the number one tip you have for somebody? Maybe they've never done Beachbody before. Maybe they've gotten out of shape, whatever it is. Like, what is your number one tip for somebody just starting their fitness journey?
It's never too late to start, first of all. I've worked with people of all ages, and my advice to anybody is to take it one day at a time, one step at a time. I work with people all the time that have done Beachbody, but they failed miserably, and it's because they didn't. They went right for Insanity or P90X. I've never
do it all.
No, I have never even attempted to finish one of those programs because they're that hard and people don't know where to start. And that's why finding a mentor that can help you or a coach that can kind of figure out where you are physically and emotionally and mentally and see where you want to be and make a plan that's going to work for you. And it's like, think about people who smoke. I don't know too many people who have ever quit cold turkey and haven't failed miserably. That you have to ease yourself into this new lifestyle. It's small changes that add up to a big result, and that's it. Make small changes. Cut back on your soda and your pop, from 5 times a day to once a day, and then maybe 3 times a week, and then eventually just a weekend or for a treats kind of thing. People assume that in order to live healthy, they have to completely make a lifestyle change, pivot and turn, and it's not going to work that way. That's why you're going to fail. So make small changes.
Oh, I love that. So rather than going like 180 degrees, like start turning the dial slowly. I went to Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within this summer.
I went to Dallas.
Oh, but that was okay. I was in Newark, New Jersey. And what's funny is Mrs. Virginia, Nikki Goss, she was at the same event with me there. And we didn't even know. Like, it was actually one day at Mrs. America. I hadn't slept one of the nights. I suffer with insomnia every now and then. Well, now it's every now and then. It used to be really bad a long time ago. Anyway, one of the nights at Mrs. America, I completely did not sleep, like not even 1 minute of sleep. And so the next day I could just tell I was like in this negative headspace. And so we had like a little break and I was like, you know what? I'm going to put on some Tony Robbins or Joel Osteen or something and just like get myself back in that positive headspace. And I just kind of mentioned it and Nikki overheard me and she's like, wait a minute, are you a firewalker? And I was like, oh my gosh, are you? And we're like, ah! We like have this little moment and everyone is looking at us like, what are you two crazies doing? And she was like, I went to Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within this summer. And I was like, no way, me too. And she's like, where? And I was like, Newark, New Jersey. She's like, oh my gosh, no way. Anyway, where was I going with this? Oh yes, back to my point. One of the things they mentioned was like just 2 degrees, like 2 degrees of change is what makes you go from missing that goal to finally hitting it, whether it's like golf, like if you're pivoting your body, it just takes 2 degrees to finally hit that hole in one versus before. So like, I love that with your fitness. It kind of has to do with like my next question is what do you find is the most common reason women struggle to lose weight or to reach their fitness goals?
It changes every day, but my latest theory, and I truly think it because I have not worked out in 2 months, which is really scary. I have eaten so clean, but I will swear by it till the day I die. I have removed all artificial sweeteners in my house and everything I eat. High fructose corn syrup is a terrible chemical that we put in everything. It's in your ketchup. It's in your pasta sauce. It's
in chips.
It's in chips.
Why is it in chips?
It's because it's cheap to produce. It's sweet and it's addictive. So you want more of it. Our bodies can't process it. And when your bodies can't recognize what we're putting in it, it automatically stores it.
Yep.
And I truly believe that if you remove all of those preservatives and chemicals from your body, you are instantly going to lose weight because your body will start using food for energy and not storing it because you're eating real stuff. Now, don't get me wrong. I love my pizza. I love my Chinese food. I love donuts. I just limit those and I try to eat as whole as possible. And it's completely transformed me. I don't follow a strict meal plan. I am about to. I'm about to do a big challenge. But I don't follow a big restrict meal plan. I don't restrict myself from treating myself whenever I want. And I am probably the lowest percentage of body fat right now and weight that I have been since high school. And I haven't worked out once. I do yoga and I'm very active. I'm going to have my Fitbit on. I'm always challenging my mom to steps. But I haven't really killed myself, which people think they have to kill themselves. So that's the advantage of finding that balance for sure. And another thing that I've done that I think is huge, and I don't think it's a fad diet, I've researched it to the core, and it's something called intermittent fasting.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry. I occasionally do intermittent fasting. It's huge for results.
I occasionally not intermittent fast. I'm always intermittent fasting. And it's completely changed my metabolism. It's changed my energy levels. My digestion it's all about digestion. You got to get rid of all the toxins as well. So intermittent fasting, nerdfitness.com has a hilarious intro to intermittent fasting for beginners. Love that blog if you've ever read it. And there's so many different YouTube videos and people who have done it. I've talked to physicians. I've researched and done all this reading about it, and I cannot find one bad thing about it. The only thing you have to be careful of is if you're diabetic, and you have to be careful of your blood sugar levels. Talk to your doctor about it if you want to, but it is taken every guesswork out of anything I've ever put into my mouth, food and drink, and it's made it so easy.
Yeah, I had to do it for a period of time because I was really close to, I was actually diagnosed as pre-diabetic at one point, and I had to do some intermittent fasting to help get my body out of that cycle. And it was really sucky at first because I would see everyone else eating breakfast and having their morning coffee, which I learned to enjoy coffee without a bunch of crap in there. And it was really, really hard at first. But then now I'm I intermittent fasted actually this morning, and I'm that's no big deal. So for people that don't know what it is, essentially you skip your morning meal and you fast until about noon or 1, and then that's when you kind of break that fast, and it helps stimulate your metabolism. And there's a lot of research, like you said, and not only that, it goes back to kind of our caveman days where we didn't always necessarily have a meal right at the beginning of the day, or even in olden times, people would go out and work the farm or work the fields first, and then come in for a later breaking of the fast that late morning or early afternoon. So our bodies are actually okay with skipping some meals every now and then. I think we just live in that society where it's I can't go hungry. I can't go without a meal.
It's called the SAD diet. The standard American diet is SAD because it truly is not, it's not good. It's and even the government will tell you it's
overfed
good.
and undernourished for sure.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, I did want to talk a little bit before we wrap up about your platform. So I wanted to know, you mentioned it a little bit ago about being in foster care, but your mom was also a runway model. Was it your mom that you were fostered with, or was it your mom that was your biological mom? What's your story with foster care?
I introduced it the worst way ever. No, like most people, like most families, nobody's perfect, no matter how perfect they seem to the outside world. My family got caught up in the wrong scene at a young age. My mom was a runway model, did some local modeling. My dad worked his family business, and they both lived a lifestyle that consisted of drugs and alcohol and a lot of partying. And like a lot of families that fall victim to this, they they let it get out of hand. And my mom ended up having to, they both were incarcerated for a short time. My dad was in prison for 3 years because of his lifestyle choices. And my mom ended up going to Canada. We're Native American. She went to the reservation because we have different rights Native Americans do. She was able to get the help and she needed. So that kind of put my little brother and I in lingo. We were kind of, we weren't placed with anybody. So the state of Michigan automatically, when in a situation like this, we automatically get placed in foster care. But we were fortunate enough, it was not easy. And it seems so silly to me that it wasn't easy, but we were able to be placed with my grandmother. And we were in foster care with her for, oh my gosh, I really have to think about 4 or 5 years before she eventually adopted us.
Okay.
So we were with her. I mean, I was just at her house, earlier today, had some food with her. I mean, she raised me. She raised me from 8 till today. She's still raising me sometimes. Let's be real. My mom and dad are amazing. They're in my life every day. My mom is about to turn 50. Woo. I'm sorry, Mom, if you're listening to this. Yeah. She turns 50 on the 7th. And my dad lives just 15 minutes away. Both have just, redirected their life, and they're living amazing lives. They're amazing people. My mom went back to college and she holds many certifications and degrees. And my dad is I'm so proud of the man he is. And we're a very dysfunctional family, but we are one of the most loving families you'll ever meet. And I'm very, very close with them. So I am blessed to have them, but we did go through some rocky parts of our lives.
Yeah. Well, that must be why raising money for foster care scholarships is so near and dear to your heart.
It is, very much so. And I work with, so how I kind of became, the Feather Project started, I was, outside of everything that happened, I was also sexually molested by a friend of my mom and dad's. And it changes you as a human being. It really changes you. And anybody who has had some physical or abuse or sexual abuse of any kind, rape, molestation, attacked, you'll never be the same. And I could talk for hours on, my healing from that. But with that said, I've always been a big advocate for children who have pasts like mine that don't necessarily have the support and love. And I partnered up with an organization here in my hometown called Bachelor Children's Home. My mother-in-law is on the board. I think she's the president this year of the fundraising committee. And we do a lot of fundraising, and they help kids who have been abused, who, have very sticky situations at home, who are abusing, are just, dealing with drug abuse, sex abuse, kids like me, kids like that were like me. And they offer them healing and the help that they need and the patience they need. And they also have a very great program for these foster kids to give them schooling. And it came to my attention as Miss Indiana USA, I got to talk to a lot of kids that have, were success stories in the foster care system, and they were having the hardest time getting into college because they didn't have the family savings and they didn't have jobs, and they really, they don't always have the best schooling in order to get the academics, to get scholarships to go to college.
Yeah.
And so I realized that there's a void there. There's something we're missing. We don't have enough scholarships for kids who are in foster care trying to do better than the situations they're in.
And really break that cycle and that pattern.
Yes.
For generations.
How to break it. We have to break it. And I want to be able to provide some resources for students that want to go to college. And I don't care what kind of college or university, private, community, public, I don't care what it is, online, if they want to better
themselves.
Even
an apprenticeship type education or.
Yes. Just to be able to be confident in their futures and to give back to society in a positive way. I want to be able to reinforce that. So that's what the Feather Project is. We just raised about $3,000 on Facebook for my birthday fundraiser.
I saw that.
Yes, I'm so happy. People were so loving. People gave up their Starbucks for the day and donated $5. It was awesome. It was so nice. So yeah, we're getting ready to file for our 501c3 and then get our website going. And then there's going to be an application process with an essay for the kids to fill out. And my goal is to be able to, offer more and more scholarships as we go. But for now, we're going to start at Bachelor Children's Home because that's where I got my start.
I love it. And why did you decide to call it the Feather Project? Does it have to do with like your Native American roots?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Feathers are really important to me as my little feather, and I have a feather tattoo. I have feathers all over my house. Feathers are very, very symbolic in the Native American culture. I am a half Ojibwe or Chippewa or Ojibwa, however you want to say it. My mom's half. I'm a quarter. My grandpa's full. So we were born. I'm registered. I go to the reservation a lot. I work with, Chris and I had a Native American wedding. We had a traditional wedding. The teachings are really important to me. But my favorite teaching is on the eagle feather. And the point of the feather is to, every time you're named, I thought I had one with me. I have one somewhere. Not here. The Native American culture, when you're named, you're given your spirit name. I'm Gemewinque, which means rain woman. When I was named by my medicine man, I was given my eagle feather, and it's an extension of my spirit, if you will. And my goal is to live in equal balance of my feather. There's four parts to a feather. There's, of course, the spine that goes down the feather. I can't see it on my tattoo. So there's a spine that goes down. So that breaks it into different parts, but there's also another side. So each quadrant represents something. The part that the bird shows your emotion and physical parts of your spirit. Those are things that you show to people all the time. Underneath are your mental and spiritual. So you want to be physical, mental, emotional, and spiritually balanced at all times. And that's kind of what I teach people when I work with them in my life coaching, when I do public speaking events. So I just thought it was, kind of this project that I'm working on with people. That's why it was named the Feather Project, because no matter where you are, you want to live in equal balance and to live a healthy lifestyle, life.
And that transfers to everything, not just working with the children in the foster care system, but even pageantry, running a business, just being sane, having that balance.
Being human,
Yeah, just living life, I love it. Well, there's a few questions that I kind of ask all my guests at the end here. One of them is, what are your top 3 core values?
Oh my goodness. Top 3 core values. Like I live each day?
Yeah, or it could just be, and no matter what decision you decide to do in life, whether it's something to do for your business or in pageants, they always come back to like top 3 core values, or at least things should, what would you say they are?
I don't know if I'm answering this right, but
there's no right or wrong.
Making these decisions, I guess a quote or a standard I try to live my life every day is to leave the world a better place than I found it. And that's something that's really important to me, especially when you're when you're Mrs. Washington or Mrs. America or Mrs. World, you make such a big impact. So no matter what I do in my daily life, I'm trying to leave that person, that place, that event. I hope that I made an impact enough to change somebody's life for the positive. So that's one of them. I am someone who, I always say it, I'm a minimalist. I really try to be. So I don't try to live beyond my means. If I have more than I need, I try to give others the excess, if you will. So I try to live as simple as possible and help those around that need help. And then I guess the other one is to be grateful. There's, no matter how your day's going, if you're having a great day, if you're having a horrible day, if you just stop and name 3 things you're grateful for, it'll instantly change your mood. And my husband and I pray before every meal, and we say what we're grateful for or thankful for. And I think if you do those 3 things every day, you're going to completely see a transformation in your life. That's what I do.
Yeah, I love that. I have a similar morning ritual where I actually go through this Tony Robbins exercise, and part of it is just come up with 3 things that you're truly grateful for. It could be as simple as, one of mine is like, oh, I had a warm cup of coffee on a cold day, like something small like that. Or it could be really big and monumental, like I'm really thankful for the love of my life, like being my spouse. But, just having that attitude of gratitude, like sets you up for success for the rest of the day. So I share that with you, and I love that. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
And then my last question is it's very vague and open, but take it to your interpretation how you want. But I always ask my guests, what does it mean to do things with style and grace?
well, I don't know if the Mrs. World knows this, but I got my start in pageantry in the Miss America organization, and the Miss America crown has 4 points to them. And style, service, success, and scholarship are the 4 points of the Miss America crown. And we always joked we didn't understand why style was one of them because we're like, how does that make sense? But I admire what you do, Deirdre, because style is an extension of someone's personality, and we dress how we feel and what makes us confident. And style, ask the question again. I want to make sure I'm answering.
What does
it
mean to do things with style and grace to you?
Okay. So in my opinion, I think as a woman especially, I think we should dress, our style should incorporate grace because, I think it makes us more confident in anything we do, and it makes us unstoppable.
Yes. It's like that quote. I have a little framed quote, and it says, like, Cinderella is proof that a pair of shoes can change your life.
Yes. Yes. Love that.
Yeah, totally true. I'm like, oh, yeah, so I need more shoes.
Yes, that is exactly what it's telling you.
Yeah, my husband would beg to differ, but he's like, have you seen your closet, girl? Anyway, well, I just wanted to say thank you again so much for coming on my podcast today. Where can my listeners find you?
Oh, pretty much anywhere. I'm out
in
there.
Your kitchen, you know.
I love Instagram. Instagram is my favorite. I have a couple of them, but my Mrs. America 18, I share a lot of my Miss America adventures there. But my lifestyle is Miss Mekayla Fitness, and I usually bounce between the two of them. Pageant stuff goes to Mrs. America stuff. My lifestyle goes to my fitness page. So I prominently live on there. My email is MekaylaEppers@gmail. If anybody has any requests or wants to talk or book an appointment with me, I'd love to work with you. But yeah, I'm pretty much Google me and you find me. I think.
Yeah, for sure. And are you on Facebook too? Do you have a website?
My website is missmekaylafitness.com, and Facebook, I'm really bad because I don't know how to change it, but I've reached my maximum friends. I have 5,000 friends. So you can follow my Facebook page is Mekayla Fawn Eppers. I also have a Facebook, fitness Facebook page, Miss Mekayla Fitness. Yeah, I have a lot of Facebook pages.
Okay, I hear you. I think I have 4 total, like 3 pages and then my personal one and then plus Instagram and all that. It's like a full-time job right there.
We have our blog, The Spilled Milk Club. You can go to spilledmilkclub.com and find all of our, if you want real deep details of my life, go there. You'll find us. I'm there. Just look for me.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for being on my show, and I will stay in touch with you. So thanks.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Bye, girl.
Hey ladies, thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoyed today's episode. To help empower more women, please be a doll and rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. For show notes and other free resources we mentioned today, go to stylebydeidra.com.